August the 14th, 2019. Guys, welcome to our show. As you know, we've been watching the markets for the last few days, and they opened this morning at minus 400. And the futures were indicating that earlier than that. But guys, let me know if you're getting audio. I appreciate it. Again, let me move this over to our markets at the time. Give me 1 minute. What you're looking at is live stock market reports. This is really a great site, guys. It's listed on our website, and you can look at that ticker 24/7. What we're seeing now is the Dow Jones Industrial Average Index is down 567 points. That has approached 600 and touched it a couple of times this morning, but again, it opened it 400 down, and this is what we're seeing now. Overseas, the Hang Seng Index, which kind of mirrors the Dow Jones, they're very close in the same amount. They're both around 25,000, but it ended up about 23 points. So instead of falling anymore, it's kind of like what we talked about yesterday. They didn't gain much, 20-something points, but it was plus. It wasn't another drop like they've been doing. Now, what's happened is the banks and the bonds. That's the big problem. You've got a 30-year treasury, guys, and down. It's the lowest it's ever been since they created these treasury bonds. And I just want to kind of give you a little information on that and why it's important. But a 30-year treasury is a U.S. Treasury debt obligation that has a maturity of 30 years. The 30-year treasury used to be the bellwether U.S. bond, but now most consider the 10-year treasury to be the benchmark, and it's way down too. But right now, this is the lowest ever on the 30-year bond. And when you say U.S. Treasury debt, guys, that's people can buy these notes, and as they mature and they get interest that comes in from the Fed, then at 30 years, they get, again, the face value. So it should normally increase, but it's been dropping, and now it has crossed that lowest point ever. The U.S. government borrows money from investors by issuing debt securities through its Treasury Department. Debt instruments that can be purchased from the government include Treasury bills, notes, and Treasury inflated protected securities called TIPS. T-bills are marketable securities issued for terms less than a year, and Treasury notes are issued with maturities from 2 to 10 years and then up to 30 years from that. The says when there's inflation, a principal increases. When deflation sets in, the principal decreases. U.S. Treasury securities with longer-term maturities can be purchased as U.S. savings bonds or Treasury bonds. And guys, think of the investors that are getting hit. The banks are getting hit. You've got some down 5% already today. But basically, if we look at that, and we look at the world markets, again, we're down over 550. The Nikkei, it went up slightly. Hang Seng plus 20. Shanghai plus 11 points. All they did was keep their heads above water there. And it's ongoing trade war and the Hong Kong protest have a lot to do with it. But there's a battle in Hong Kong now. We know about that. They've been said yesterday and Monday, they shut down the Hong Kong airport, which, by the way, is the largest in the world. So think of the economic impact and the backup and delays that happen there. People are now becoming more and more afraid to travel simply because they have to get through the airport, and then you got the protest on the street. What they're saying is, as anti-Beijing protests in Hong Kong enter the third month, China's leaders face a new challenge, managing perceptions of the protest at home. Now, when you say managing the perception, what mainstream media is here is 10 times worse in Hong Kong. They control the narrative, and listen, they are putting a spin on this like Hong Kong, the protesters are the worst deplorables in the world. They're getting ready to slam them. They've got troops everywhere. They've got PLA with inside of China. It says there's a major disinformation campaign now in Beijing. It's to stir up nationalist support at home. Does that sound familiar? Creating a very different narrative of what is happening in Hong Kong by levying its control over the flow of information. The protest movement is so complicated, unpredictable, and unprecedented, with very diverse groups of participants, says Fang Qiqing, a communications professor at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. But what we see within the Great Firewall of China, is what he's calling it, is actually simplified and distorted. That is because nationalistic content is politically safe and highly popular among the Chinese public and internet users. Official state media pin the blame for protest on the black hand of foreign interference, namely from the U.S. And guys, there were protesters in Hong Kong a few days ago that were singing the national anthem and waving American flags. It says a popular conspiracy theory posits the CIA incited and funded the Hong Kong protest, who are demanding an end to the extradition bill with China and the ability to elect their own leader. We've been through that. So, guys, that thing is on edge. Remember I said this, that China wants the bank in Hong Kong. They want that Hang Seng. They want that money because they are going broke fast. And this whole extradition bill was a farce to move in. In other words, they knew that protesters would rise when they wanted to take people out of Hong Kong, pull them into mainland China, put them in the gulag. They knew that would happen. That gives them now the reason they need to move in and take over. That's going to be a major thing to watch for as we go forward in this year. I don't know how long that trade war will last and why now, guys, it is so critical. Again, you're welcome, guys. Hi, everybody. Hey, Matthew 12, Varying Red Beard, Bad Drevel, Michigan Woodland Warrior, DPFX 9999, New World Pictures, Real Talk with George Show, Bill Underwood, King's Queen. Thank you guys for coming. Got 384 folks here. And what I'm just going to say is, why is it so important now? We've seen the markets fluctuate over the last 20 years, up and down, longer than that, really. But what's different now is China does not hold the keys to this kingdom like they did in the past administrations. The past administration sold out this nation to China. Now Trump is not doing that. He's fighting them in this trade war, currency war. And so the game has changed. What would be who would you want to watch if you're in a currency conflict or market conflict? The two people on this planet would be the U.S. and China. But they could come in and take what they wanted when they wanted, steal trade secrets, buy, sell trade secrets, tech secrets. Now that crutch is gone. And the past administrations gave them an open door and they destroyed this country. You saw all the factories start closing and everything for years and years and years, guys. That's been going on. So now it is important. This, again, the Chinese markets bounced back to just about even as far as the way they closed. That didn't mean they gained back anything, just 20 points on the Hang Seng. 20 points is all, but they've been going down very quickly. But this bond situation and the banks are the tipping point here. They're talking about lowering interest, maybe another 50 points from the Fed. And when you start doing that, At first it helps, but there are now countries, believe it or not, and I don't know how exactly it works, that are lending at below zero. In other words, a free loan, and you actually almost make money from borrowing it. That's how desperate some of these countries are. Look this up: countries loaning at below 0% interest. It's an interesting article. I read it. And when you go there, guys, that then all of your bonds and treasuries and things like that we're talking about, they get killed. And I think I can pull up one of these treasury charts to just show you the 10, the 20, and the 30. Give me a moment on that. But again, everyone, thanks for coming. Carl Johnson, welcome. Charlie, Scotty, different channel, Varying Redbeard again. There you go. Raymond Knight, thank you guys for coming. What you're looking at, Dow Jones is down 575. China, again, closed at about plus 20 on the Hang Seng. That's their major market. Again, it has a lot to do with the protest also. We've got, let me pull this up real quick. What you're looking at, we'll quickly move over to CNBC. The yields on the bonds are the 10 and the 30, the 5 and the 2, and you actually have a 3-month U.S. bond, okay? Treasury notes, basically. Everything's down except the Japan 10-year and at the very bottom. And again, where you can see as it goes through these changes. But the 30-year is at 2.047, down 0.09, 0.091. Now it's 2.046. This is the lowest it's ever been. There's a tremendous amount of money that has been tied into these bonds, and it's a major watch for the banks. At the same time, you watch these government bonds. But again, everything's down except the Japan 10-year bond, and you can see at the bottom of the chart, even oil is down 2.78 today, 4.87% down in less than half a day of trading at 54.32. So there's problems going on. Will it balance out with this war between Trump and China, the U.S. and China? I don't know. They're very weak. I heard an interview the other day with Steve Bannon, and he was talking about China was basically built on sand as far as their economy. That he said that in 2 or 3 days, if the U.S. wanted to, they could take China down economically, which of course would start World War III between us and them, and who else would get involved, who knows. But that they are not stable. We are starting to get our factories built back up some, more employment. And by the way, they remember a couple of days ago we did the video where ICE came down here into Mississippi and they arrested 680 or something people, and about 300 of those guys turned out they were released back. But I don't know if they could show someone brought their correct papers with them, but some that had children that had been left at home, things like that, they went back. But what's happened? Now, I don't know if they went back to work, but they got to go back, and so someone would be there with the kids. But Mississippians are taking those jobs now. There's job fairs open, and that's the way it's supposed to work. I mean, everybody has different jobs, but if you need work, there is work. It's a lot of people say that unemployment has been really rough. But I think one of the problems was that we had too many people, especially illegal immigrants, taking advantage of the welfare situation, the public funds, so to speak, housing, healthcare, education. The country was being torn down that way. I'm going to go back over to the Dow charts a minute. 608, 609 down minus 25, 670. So you can see on this chart, this is going back from last September. And let's look at it on the monthly chart. And we'll show you right at the end of July, right there, guys, where that's the point China started devaluating the currency, creating a currency war. Why? To destabilize the U.S., but it kind of backfired. But remember, we dropped 700 points that first lick, and then people started saying there would be a dead cat bounce. That was not just me, that was from the stock reports. In other words, even a dead cat will bounce a little when it hits the ground. So we got to watch it, guys. That's what this is about. There's a lot going on. This is the indicator. If the markets collapse, the banks get in trouble, then you know what's going to happen, guys. It's going to be possible for anybody to buy a new home, finance anything. If the banks start closing like they did in Europe, they're going to have limited hours. It's a complete nightmare scenario at one time. But one thing about this, we have a strong market at 25,661. You see that? That is the strongest market now. Just the Hang Seng is just under it, not far. But we've got a good way to go. Now, if you continue doing $500 or $600, points a day, then it doesn't take long to chip into that. But again, the reason I watch this and we watch this is because when trouble could be where it hits first, and when it will create economic chaos, which leads to other chaoses. On the chart I put in a video a couple weeks ago, it said you start with a trade war and a currency war, and it ends in a red war if something isn't done about it, in a hot war, a real war. And when, like Bannon was talking about in that interview, it wouldn't take much to pull the legs out from under them. And I don't think Trump is trying to do that, because that would destabilize a tremendous amount of the world's money, investments, manufacturing. He wants a level playing field. And I think that's what we're seeing. But guys, it's going to have the impact that we're seeing now. What has happened? This downturn has less to do with China and more to do with the weakness in our banking systems. We've printed money way too long with nothing to back it up. That's why you see dips. When you see dips like this, gold and silver would normally rise. Silver was around $17 the last time I checked. And we have a ticker on our website, guys, and I'm going to pull that up. That actually has your silver, gold, things like that, oil on it. And what it does is gives you a real quick look without having to go in and look at all the information. Let me see if I can get this up here. There we go. Now, silver, you can see, is at 17.25. It is slightly up. Gold will slightly be up as these safe havens come about. When the market's getting in trouble, they rush to gold and silver. People do. It's a natural thing. It always has happened like that. It will be a great trap in the end. But guys, think we're invested in silver when it was at $50. That was all-time high. $50. Now, remember gold shot way up and became very valuable when China was buying it up. And that's what China is hoping to fall back on. China and Russia started hoarding gold, buying it up. That's why when Iran wanted their gold and the folks in the UK that were controlling that gold deposit said no. You know, they were working with Trump on that deal, but they have that goal, but it's going to be their stumbling block also. I mean, all they can do is make gold bullets. That's about the only use it's going to be, because it will not be traded, neither will silver. No precious metals will be traded except LEAD. But again, you can see here gold is up 1524. This is that flight to safety. Now, has anybody kept up with some of the updates on the Epstein case? It gets more incredible each day as it comes up. Now they've got they had to fire or let go 2 guards that were asleep, and the warden is been removed now from the, what is it called, Manhattan, or the MCC, Manhattan Correctional Center, whatever it's called. And the guys, they are putting FBI investigators in there. The guys that were supposed to be guarding him were asleep, and then they got caught changing the records, the overnight reports. There are reports that there was screaming from his cell before they found him dead. They say there are no cameras looking into that, into the cell just down the hall, and that's what they're trying to find now, because they said if the cameras haven't been messed with, it would at least show someone entering and exiting that cell at that time. Don't know, but they I think people just let their guard down. Barr and our president should have been right on top of this guy because of the people that he was involved with. Now they're saying, and Barr included, that this is letting no one off the hook. No one's getting off the hook on this deal at all. Looking at them, flip this chart back over just a second, guys. There we're 595 now on the Dow, down 594. It's been, again, it's opened at minus 400, and that's exactly what the futures are indicated. There we go, back over 6 again. And the biggest run since this began, we're looking at this longer chart here, has been 700, I think, on that day that the Chinese started devaluing their currency. And it's floating right at about 7 now. I think they're afraid to do that again. That kind of backfired, but it's having some effect here. But I think it exposed the weakness around the planet about banks, bonds, and treasuries. So much was tied up in that, and all backed by what? U.S. printed paper currency. That was a good deal. But what it did initially was allow the government to borrow money from individuals and corporations and who knows what. And I'm not sure how worldwide these bonds are, how they're distributed out, but wherever they are draining whoever has them right now. Again, the lowest ever on a 30-year bond since they were created happened today. That's going to be important. There's, again, if you look at some of the banking stocks, you got some down 5%. Some of the information, again, the Dow has tumbled on weak Chinese and German economic data. The U.S. yield curve has fully inverted. All of that, fully inverted. So as we watch it, guys, the reason we're doing it is so that you are aware of the surroundings that this world is in. People were caught off guard the last time this happened. It plunged the world into war. 1929. It wasn't long. You had things firing up around this nation. They were having The government had to reemploy most of the people. They were, at that time, they could do it. Remember all the jobs programs, building the dams and highways and everything that pulled the nation back out of that depression. I don't know if there's that much strength now. Of course, we'll fight down to the end, but that's what brought it back. But after that 29, it wasn't long, a couple decades, and we were in the World War II. Now, again, we're down minus 60166 on the Dow. If you notice in the top right of this chart, you've got the S&P. Sorry about the eagle there, guys. I'll try to get that moved. But the S&P 500 is down. You've got the Dow's down, of course. The NASDAQ is down. Everything's down on the market board. 612, 2566. We were floating with around over 2,600 or 26,000 earlier. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about as we watch this, guys. Give me 1 second. This is breaking on Zero Hedge. They were looking for Epstein's girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, I think it was, and they found her. She was living with a tech CEO in a multi-million-dollar oceanfront mansion. So she has been, I think they were looking for this woman. I don't know if they were just trying to locate her or if they're going to bring her in for questioning. I don't know about that. One of the articles that we're talking about here about the stock market, it says it's official. After 12 years, the longest artificial central bank propped expansion on record, the business cycle is once again officially in its death throes. This is Zero Hedge. This morning's the 2-year, 10-year Treasury yield curve inverted for the first time since May 2007. It says, because of all the economic indicators, this one is without doubt the most foreboding and ominous. Consider that the 2 and 10-year curve inversions have preceded the last 7 recessions and 9 out of the last 12. In fact, as Bank of America points out, there was one yield curve inversion in the mid-60s that did not precede a recession, and the yield curve did not invert ahead of the 3 recessions between the 1940s and the 50s. However, in the past 5 decades, the 2 and the 10-year inversion has been a guaranteed signal that a recession is imminent. Now, they've been talking about that a long time, but if that slope gets really slippery and you're going into recession, what stops it at that point? The says, but while a recession may be just a matter of time, the bigger question for traders is what happens to the stock market next. According to analysis from Bank of America, while much of the time the S&P 500 peaks within 2 to 3 months of a 2 and 10-year curve inversion, it can take 1 to 2 years for the S&P 500 peak after its inversion. It's a slower roll on that deal. For the 10-year curve inversions, the S&P 500 topped out with approximately 3 months of the inversion 6 times in 56, 59, 65, 73, 80, and 2000. So they're watching this very closely. I know it sounds boring about these treasuries and the banks and stuff, guys, but those are really, that's what's controlling this propped up, phony currency that we have that just doesn't have the backing it needs. Let's see, I wanted to find this on this 30-year curve. Give me just a second here, guys. Okay, I'll get to that. I've got it saved, but I want to go over to the other articles also from Zero Hedge. It says gold and silver fall sharply from 6-year and 18 months highs after massive selling in the future markets. That was this morning. Now they're slightly up, but again, they fell from the 6-year and the 18-month highs. Massive concentrated selling in the futures market saw both precious metals fall very rapidly from $15.34 an ounce and $17.51 an ounce to as low as $14.87 and $16.71. We see it floating right in that $17 area. Silver went above a 1.5-year climbing over 2% to 17.51 per ounce. Its high since January 2018, prior to concentrated selling in the futures market. That and guys, I'm going to pull up one chart here. Take a look at this. Now, what you're looking at, these are the spot silver prices, and you can see how at this morning in the red line, when the future started dropping, so did silver. Now you can see as it goes through this that we're starting to get back in that rise, but that sudden drop, there was a lot of money lost at that point, and people were starting to get into a panic, and I think that had a lot to do with why we're down. And when people see that kind of drop, they go into sell mode. They start wondering, how far is it going to drop? How much am I going to lose? Then the investors of gold and silver on the low end up getting burned because it'll drop. They will sell. Then the people that are in charge will buy it back at half price and double the amount of gold they have, or the amount of stocks and interest in silver and gold. But those type drops are indicators that there is a panic. People don't really know what to do right now, and that the markets are very volatile. Hey guys, look, 522 now watching. We need to go gold-based crypto. I don't know about that. They're getting slammed too, WW34. If you look at the crypto markets, and they're about like gold and silver. They created a false haven of safety. And the bad thing about crypto is, where's it at? Where's it at? Let me hold on one second, guys. But yeah, when you're dealing with Bitcoin, guys, it's so many people have been burned over that. And it's no way I would touch it. Not an online currency. No way. The going back to Hong Kong a minute, the satellite images coming in that show major buildup on the Chinese border there. They are in the city. Let's see where these images are coming from. This is the Shenzhen-based sports center. It's a huge complex, looks like a soccer field in there. Outside and inside are massive amounts of military gear here. Let me flip over there and see if I can get this shot up here, guys. Hold on one second. There we go. We got it right there. Let me go back. Sorry about that. This again is border city in Shenzhen, and you can see inside the dome itself, and outside I saw some ground images of people taking pictures of a lot of gear out there. But this is all inside. I guess it's to keep any protesters out. Again, this is not in Hong Kong. It's just across in Shenzhen. You know that the world is watching this as far as military. That's why we're getting satellite images like this. But they are ready And I would, if I had to bet money, they really were not worried about extraditing the citizens of Hong Kong. That's what started the protest, a new law they tried to pass, where if you're not socially correct, polite, politically correct, they can come get you and throw you away. But that wasn't the deal. They already had that capability if they really wanted it. They want Hong Kong. They want to take over that area. They need the money. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing they're not going to leave this area until the protesters stop. And the protesters don't look like they're going to stop. So at any minute, there'll be headlines talking about troop movement. But what they've done now they've what's called the PLA, the Chinese Citizen Army, basically, is in Hong Kong, has been. And they're working undercover as police and plain clothes and on the takedown of these protesters. It's getting pretty brutal there. And guys, the day that you see these troops move will probably be one of the worst days on the world stock market. All countries involved. Now, except you may see some military industrial complex stocks like Raytheon and other people like that. That may go up, kind of like a gun grab deal. Everybody starts selling bullets and guns at record levels. If you look at the stocks. And so it makes you wonder how many Democrats that are always screaming gun control actually own stocks in Remington or Winchester or Browning or whoever, Glock. Hey, Darren, how you doing, buddy? What do you think? Darren's asking us, do you know what I think will happen with this? Darren, I'd love to come in here and tell us there. The man is appointed to die. That's right. You're right. R says, I say buy ammo. It will be a good trade before it's all said and done. Sure, it will. Think about it. People may have some hunting rifles or something, and they're trying to go out and get a deer or whatever, feed the family. Lead will be the precious metal. It doesn't hurt to have. Have it. It really doesn't. You can use it for hunting, and it will be the precious metal. Bill Underwood says lead, powder, warm clothing, canned food, can't go wrong, as all can be used regardless. Exactly right there. Exactly, Bill. Rotate your canned food or use the free-dried 20 or 30-year stuff. Darren, China goes to war against France and Europe, and they lose. Could happen. If Darren, and anybody, do you think the U.S. would get involved in that? I think so. More than likely, I don't know if it would be directly or indirectly, but they could. Now, if China and the U.S. don't go to war over Taiwan and over this, but that's what really the new world order wants, a world war. And you may be looking at an image of the beginning of it, a historical image, before it's all said and done, just before some of the major changes started. It's amazing to see it. Guys, it's a dangerous situation, but it's better to be aware than to be just going along in life and not caring about anything. And those are the folks that are going to be caught off guard. Everybody's kind of, I've noticed watching different news videos and reading different articles that more and more people are becoming aware that the world is kind of sliding downhill very quickly, politically, geopolitically. And it's kind of like an awareness, not just with us, but with many other people that are not associated with our group, but even large newspapers and other people like that. They know the world is in There's a lot of tension right now. You can see it just from this photograph. That's kind of it's a wild picture. But I don't know if China is trying to do this to simply, I mean, they're saying they want the protest to stop. But guys, again, they want Hong Kong. They need it. They need to take over the banks. They need to take over the airports. They want that. They want the entire world. That has always been China's plan, is world domination. Always. And they're an old nation, and they know the waiting game. But that waiting game doesn't look like it's going to last much longer. Just again, by looking at this, the some of the other news that's going on that we've been watching. You've got, hold on, let me pull this back up. Sorry about that. Let's go. I'm going to put this back over Dow Jones. We're down 661, 659. That, again, this is a 1 month chart that we're looking at. And the dive started right here at the end of July, guys. And we're now getting close to the lows of the month on this thing at 25,612. And, you know, we were 27.6 back in early July. So a couple thousand points. We're going to be getting close to losing if this thing keeps going on in the last 30 days. Dow Jones, S&P's down 78. NASDAQ, guys, 227. That's a lot for the NASDAQ. That's 2.94%. The Dow's 2.47% down. S&P is down 2.64%, also at minus 77. The again, they're talking about weak Chinese and German economic data and the U.S. curve inversion. There's an article on that in the bottom right. Guys, one of the things that I think is tied into this panic situation is the Democrats screaming about open borders. They and ICE is one of their facilities got shot up right after a bunch of protesters were protesting and shouting down ICE. But at the facility in Texas, some of the windows were shot out, things like that. Guys, they want a war. They want any kind of chaos to stir up things before Trump gets another 4 years in office. They are in panic mode. That's why Epstein is no longer on the planet, I don't think. The pictures looked like he was pretty dead, the ones that I saw. You know, there's a lot of people saying, well, maybe they ghosted him out of there. Possibly. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. But he was a liability. And the only reason I think he wasn't snuffed out much quicker is they thought she would win, and they thought he was above the law. And he had stuff on all of them. And it's a lot more people than they're talking about worldwide. And as they raided the compound over on the Epstein Island, they found cameras everywhere. They call it a perfect place for political blackmail. That's what they're talking about. And that's what we said all along. But so the Democrats are the most dangerous terrorist organization, in my opinion, for what they've done, and are constantly attacking our president, tearing down our nation, flooding the borders for votes and for chaos. That is the Trojan horse within our country. And it's evil. They are evil. I don't know what's wrong with these people. I have no idea how they suddenly, well, I think what happened was, I guess, guys, once Hillary lost, the horns started popping up because they were trying to just lay low. Everything was going perfect for the demons. They were selling everything to China and opening up everything. And suddenly that stopped. And that you started seeing that evil spirit rise in there. It's I've never seen anything like it politically. And I've, been around a while, seen a lot of elections, but nothing like this. Not even with Obama's second term did I see anything like this. And, they thought she would win, guys. They thought she had it. Now they're threatening to the Supreme Court. They don't think they're being fair because the balance is kind of going over more conservative on some of the issues. Now they're attacking them. They would eat each other alive if they thought they could get up one step on the political ladder. But so many of them are guilty of crimes, whether it's selling trade secrets or yellow cake, uranium. This panic that they're in, guys, is causing the mass shootings. It's not Trump's rhetoric. It is what they're doing, what Hollywood's making movies like The Hunt, and then screaming for gun control and saying Trump's rhetoric again is causing these shootings. When they're making a movie about hunting deplorables, they say that it won't be released on the date. They don't say it won't ever be released. I don't think it's going to work out too good, and I hope they have to eat all that money. Wasn't that much. It was kind of a cheap budget anyway. I think about $15 million. But I want to go to an update just a minute. It says riot police are storming the Hong Kong airport again. Armed Chinese police vehicles are massing near Hong Kong. That's what we're seeing in that satellite imaging. Pull this up just a second, guys. Yeah, most of this was from last night. International news reporting following the police operation that reporters witnessed at least 4 arrests and that officers appear to be targeting specific people. To get through the protesters, police used pepper spray and batons to push back the crowd. According to an official statement from Hong Kong police, airport officials requested that the riot officers enter the airport to rescue a man who protesters had apprehended and accused of being an undercover police officer. The South China Morning Post also reported that the airport received a court injunction requesting police remove the protesters from the premises, though Hong Kong police did not issue an official statement to that effect, and officers left without clearing out all the protesters. They kind of scattered them. Pro-democracy protesters shut down the airport again. That was the second day. I don't know what's going on. This is not. This is a couple hours old on this report, guys. So I'm not sure if, as they go into the third day, what it's going to look like there. Says they had to cancel all the flights in a bid to get the China-controlled Hong Kong government to listen to their demands. Is what they were doing. Some protesters appear to panic and target others suspected of working for the communist government after officials admitted this weekend that the officers had dressed up as protesters to infiltrate the marches. That's common. But guys, you have that PLA Chinese army that's there. It's always been there just for this purpose. They knew that they would eventually attempt to move into Hong Kong and take it. It's amazing. The protesters have firmly listed 5 demands intended to make Hong Kong's governance more democratic and free from Chinese Communist Party influences. Let's see, police reported that when they entered the Hong Kong airport, local time, after protesters had again grounded all the flights for the day, fully armed and stating they were present to remove a man who had suffered injuries. That's the guy this report's talking about that he was undercover, and they surrounded him. Some of the protesters did. Someone must have recognized him. And guys, these undercover Hong Kong police are more than likely Chinese PLA. Remember, they were already there. Go back over just a second. Let's look at this. Down 631, 632. It's not bouncing right now, guys. We're still trending down there. But guys, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to come in here and go over some of the news, look at this. I'm gonna do a couple of updates this afternoon. If at closing, we were going to do this yesterday. Remember, I said we'd come in at closing, but the Dow had kept that 400 points. It was doing well. It kind of held out just like we thought it would when we ended that video yesterday. This is a different story altogether. It could bounce back, but right now it's continuing the slide. 25,653 now. It's just an indicator of what's going on this planet, because the world revolves around money. As far as military, governments, we do now, we're all entangled in this, whether you like it or not. But guys, again, that's what I wanted to talk about. Make sure everyone's paying attention. Where's your money? Where's your 401ks? Where's your retirement funds? Find out. Call your broker, whoever is handling this, whatever group you're with. Find out what's going on with your individual, again, retirement, 401ks, whatever other, and if you're just a stock market investor, find out where you are at, and you need to watch it constantly to decide what you need to do about it when you see markets like this. 646, this could break that 700 point drop record that we saw a couple weeks ago, guys. 647. But I'm going to back out of here. Watch what's to come in around 2 o'clock. I don't know what this is going to do, but it bears watching. I want to thank y'all for coming. Thank you, Quizno, Red Wolf, Greg Cheney. Hey, Greg, if you don't have food, water, filtration, guns, and ammo, you're on a bad road. Thank you, Greg and Carolyn. Thank you. You guys still on your boat, Greg? Let me know there. Doug Henderson, gold and silver, has the mark. 996. The beast is the market and government and legal system. They are still spraying our skies with poisons, Kathy Knight. Kathy, where are you from? What area are you talking about there? Water, food, first aid, and medicine. Then ammo for your guns, crying hippie. Is this in this order? God bless. Do not panic. We're not panicking. That's why we watch and don't get caught off guard. It's funny how brokers go silent, Great Scott says. When the markets are bad, they sure hound you when they're good. That's exactly right. Yeah, they go quiet because they don't want to panic you and make you call in and cash out. That's why they go quiet. And listen, that's one of the saddest days of their lives. Dow down 660. Rick Thorne says minus 660. It's very close. Drop up, coming 652.8, 657. Again, that 700 mark of that bad day is kind of a breakthrough point. We're going to have to watch that. If it goes much, we don't have far 50 points to get there right now. 649. Jerry Clark saying the Dems won't crash. They will start impeachment to collapse the market and then blame Trump. Would Jerry think about the Dems and how they've sold out to China too? If I'm not mistaken, they pretty much control the port of Los Angeles. And I remember over 30 years ago, when I was working with Panasonic guys, I was over in LA, and the hotels then, and I was for you guys in the area, we were near Huntington Beach and Buena Park, and it was all Chinese run then. All the hotels in that area were all Chinese. I mean, I don't, I just noticed it. Wasn't no big deal. But guys, you know that they have bought major tracts of land here, and you got it in Egypt and Africa, to where they're using the water of these nations to grow crops and then send them back to China. I wish I could remember the name of it. I'll look it up. But some of you guys may know China has one area in California, And has always been part of what they call kind of the water wars. You got limited water supply, and they try to get some to the farmers, some to the environmentalists, and try to get to the cities and whatever with it. But China has control over a good portion of that. And they're using it to grow crops, thanks to the Democrats. We use the water and ship it out. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. That's the Democrats. They would sell their mother in a heartbeat. Human life means nothing. And you know why? Because they're demons. They're evil. This is a battle between good and evil being played out right before your eyes. And this last election just pulled them out of every crack and cranny that you can think of. They were released. Release the Kraken Democrats, guys. It's like the Locust Army, almost. They will not quit. They will not quit. And I don't know what we're going to do about it. They want the crash, that's right. They will start impeachment to collapse in markets and then blame Trump. Well, the impeachment may not necessarily collapse the markets, but it could, because they know that Trump is trying to build the country back up. More jobs, stock market, even though it's down, is at some of its highest levels ever. And that they hate that. The Kraken is rocking. There you go. The Kraken's in here. Dems are totally lawless. That's right. Jeff, Coleman has asked me about Mike from around the world, and I've interviewed Mike on my radio shows years ago. We've done dual shows together. Very intelligent man. Also very biblically literate, and he's had a lot of positions to where he gets a lot of information, and he. Again, very intelligent man. I think he's a great guy. They will, varying Redbeard, no, they will not go quietly into the night. Silent saying Bitcoin, gold, silver, buy a little each week, but you need to accumulate some. Why? Why? Can you eat it? I'm not coming down on you, Silent, but that's been the narrative for a long time. And what's going to happen is that, and it's going to happen. The Bible says it's going to happen. People are going to throw it in the streets as they watch their children starve and curse it. Daring to say the market will really drop when Russia goes to war against the Ukraine. And Ukraine wins, by the way. The Ukrainians are not as weak as a lot of people think they are. And really, they have a lot of backing from the U.S. and some other countries, guys. Now, let's see. Jerry says, fear will make markets unstable. Dems thrive on fear and conflict. One thing about it, and they do that, they never let a bad situation go to waste. Start screaming gun control. But the Democrats, they want to see chaos. But at the same time, they don't want to lose their Chinese money. Food, water, ammo, and beer. Kraken. There you go. The elites are hoarding gold and silver. Let them hoard it. Good. We know who will be casting it in the streets. And if it was up to if Hillary would have won when this happens, they would just come get your food. Remember during the Obama administration, the government started buying up all the survival food companies, or buying their entire stock and bunkering it. They said they were doing it for FEMA. Most of it was never seen. And the only company that did not give in to them refused to, and the owner of the company sent me a letter. His name is Matt Redhawk, and he owns my Patriot Supply. He refused them. That's when we started our business relationship at that point. That's why he had the perfect name, My Patriot Supply. He refused to do it because it was getting scarce and hard for anyone else to get it, like the way they wanted all the bullets. And when you saw ammunition skyrocket, but Matt refused it. And again, his name says it all in My Patriot Supply, supplying the Patriots. And guys, they've been great to us. And every one of you that have ever went to our site and got some survival food or supplies or water filters, that was the smartest investment you've ever made. I'm not saying that because they're our sponsor. I'm saying it's because it's true, and that's the reason they're our sponsor. It's because they help folks. I know it's an investment, but would you rather have silver and gold or a storeroom or a couple of places loaded with freeze-dried food with a 30-year shelf life that you can warm up some water and pour in there and then cook it or water, rehydrate it, guys, and have great meals? Not just MRE military issue meals. This is good food. I use some of it every day. That's my job. I check it out. Everything from, they've got freeze-dried fruit, guys, that makes some of the most nutritious, like milkshakes and stuff that you can have, or breakfast drinks and things like that. All of that's there. You can bake with it. One of the things that I have really stocked up on was you can get these 5-gallon pails of almost all the oat and wheat grains to make bread with. Just about anything you can. And then they also have a very nice grinder to grind this up into where you can bake with it. These are survival techniques that will get you through a hard time. Whether it's from a hurricane or a disaster like that, or a stock market collapse and go into a super depression, not a recession, but a depression like we saw in 1929. That's where you want to invest. The silver and gold, sell it and get things your family can use, guys. Make sure you do that. Make sure you have water. You can dry your own fruit and it's cheap right now. You can. Make sure you do it right. The stuff that I'm talking about has Mylar seals, and that's where you get your 25 to 30-year shelf life on some of it. You got a freeze dry. There you go. Those things work. Now, see, you may not need 20 or 30 years shelf life. The way things are looking, we're down 15.6 right now. Guys, I'm going to back out. We're going to come in around 2:30. I'll set it up, check my schedule, and see as soon as I can get back. And we're going to do the same thing at the close. It's a good time. We can share information and keep our eye on the ball, guys. Thanks for coming. Dawn is saying, learn to grow some of your own food. We can still do these things. That's right. Now, pray that your flight not be in winter for a lot of reasons, guys. Think about that one. Our website, guys, also has all the non-GMO heirloom seeds you could want. Non-GMO, that means you can replant the seeds and you don't have all those effects. Great food there too. Guys, I'm backing out. I'm going to leave the chat going here for a few moments, and I'll see you guys back in about 2.5 hours. You guys be safe.